Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life, and hosted this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Swier Miedema. Hey, Swier.
Hi, Kimberly. Wonderful to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, I am so happy to have you. And we have had discussions in the past, and you are just full of interesting information on how the world works. So excited to get into this podcast with you. But before you do, I'm just going to give you just a brief introduction. Sweer started out studying one thing, but then he went into marketing and something else. And then he had a traumatic event, which I'm going to let him explain to you, where he started thinking very differently. And now he is in change management. So, just so everybody can get to know you, I'm going to let you tell your story.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I have been in change management for about 25 years, no more even. Well, doesn't matter. And the last few years of my employeeship, as I could call it, I started my own company 13 years ago. I was running a team of 45 change management consultants, which was great fun, but it didn't touch on the things that mattered really, and those are the people. The problem with change management is that they often just aim at changing the processes, changing the organization, changing the all the contents of the organization and so on and so forth. But the problem is that doesn't solve the problem. The problem is in the people. And if you do not realize that, nothing much will come of it. That's how we see that most of those change processes we do in companies, most of the time, don't bring very much. About 70 to 95% of those just fail, which is a waste of money, a waste of energy, and also a waste of human energy. So when I was in this field, and that is before I had my traumatic experience, as you would call it, I've been in 26 years ago. I was hit by a car while running, and there was only a few days before I was going to offer my papers to the executive board in England and the UK to become a managing director of a division, which I never made, of course, because I was lying in the hospital. Um, it was pretty bad. It took me 5 years to recover, but it also gave me the time to reconsider from, okay, now what? What are you going to make of this life? And the amazing thing, which I later, only 2 or 3 years after the accident, realized that I'd been in an out of body experience. While being driven in the ambulance to the hospital, I went out. I went unconscious, and I had this weird experience that I went to a white environment, as I call it. I can't call it anything else. It was a white thing. And the funny thing is, when I was there, I got an answer to anything I needed instantly. As soon as a question arose, the answer was given to me, which was very strange because we wrestle in our normal life with finding answers all the time. And it took me 2 or 3 years to realize that. Um, and then I started for a search to see, okay, how can I find it? And the funny thing is, I had more or less experienced that before because I've been in consulting for a long time and I got all kinds of questions fired at me, to which I didn't have an answer. But what I could do is just write down what the customer wanted and wrote that down and then put it aside. And lo and behold, 2 or 3 days later, pop, there came the answer. I didn't know where it came from, but I started trusting that. And the funny thing is, that was actually the same thing what happened when I had this experience. Then I realized, okay, so it must be able to get this in daily life, get these answers as long as I get, well, the busyness out of my head. So I carried on working and tried to recover a bit as best as I could, and I did quite well. I'm quite happy because I had 3 brain contusions, so it was pretty heavy at that time. And then in 2012, I decided I want to quit this. I don't want to go on like this because it's not rewarding for me. And because if you get a second chance, you want something to be rewarding to yourself. So I started looking for a way to find more quietness in myself and trying to get at that position where we all are now and then, because we all know it. When we have a problem, we go for a walk, and then while you're walking, you suddenly, oh yes, of course, that's how I solve it. Or you take a morning shower, and oh yes, of course, that's where how I do it. And we can do this, but we can only do it when we are relaxed. So I went on looking for that without much success. But then in April 13th, 2018, I met this lady who explained an understanding to me, and I was hit like a freight train. It was so amazing. I had this experience when she told me this. She told me in half an hour, and when she told me this, I felt it. Oh my God, this is all coming together, all fitting together. This is it. This is a major thing what we can help people. So I dove in headfirst and started to find as much as I could. The understanding I'm referring to is called the 3 principles. It's been worded for the first time by a gentleman called Sydney Banks. He was nothing more than a welder in a paper factory. And didn't have more than 7th grade, I think, in middle school, I think. But he had an epiphany at some stage. He said, "Okay, it is all my thinking, my own thinking, which is causing all this mayhem in myself." And he was listened to by quite a few people, and he's built up a large following through the years. And from that, the whole concept has been built up with psychiatrists, psychologists, and all kinds of teachers of this and they came to him from all over the world, even from Asia and from the Jewish countries. And they said, this man has a very deep wisdom. And the funny thing is, if you look at the understanding as it's built, it has the same structure as Christianity. It has the same structure as Buddhism. It has the same structure as, and the funny thing, these are very ancient beliefs we all carry within us. And there is no difference. And the funny thing is, we built all kinds of stories around that. And that's what we do with ourselves. So we build a story. I have a story about myself. I know who Swier is. I know how he responds, how he reacts to things, how he will take things on, and so on. But the funny thing is, once you learn to look at that from a little bit of that distance, you can watch it. We can watch our thoughts. And the powerful thing about that is we don't have to act on our thoughts. Because we have, as I call them, helping thoughts and non-helping thoughts. And a helping thought will always make you feel glad. It'll give you energy. The sad thing is it's over before you know it. All good things are over like that. And afterwards you'll be thinking, wow, that I could experience that. That's amazing. That's wonderful. I'm happy about that. Whatever. But we also have unhelping thoughts. Those are the thoughts we are afraid of or sad about. And they make you feel bad. They cost heaps of energy. I don't know about you, but I've been married for 40 years. No, we haven't been yet married. We have been together for 40 years. And we still have a fight now and then, but it's getting less and less.
Mhm.
But it's wearing me out after a fight. I'm worn out after a fight. I think everyone is.
Mhm.
The problem is you're trying to solve that same thought, which you can't because it's only a thought. It's 1/10 of a microvolt, I think. It's a very tiny potential difference in your brain which causes that thought, and you're fighting it. It's a waste of energy. And afterwards you'll be thinking, what was I thinking? What happened here? Why did I go into that direction? I shouldn't have done that. That's stupid. You're always sorry about it. And there's one fail-safe way of judging those, which is just follow your feeling. How do you feel about this? Is this neutral or positive? Okay, go ahead. See where you get. Is it less than neutral? Don't go there. And they say, yeah, but that can be so overwhelming. Yes, of course. Sad things or scary things can be very overwhelming. But then I said, okay, check it. Check if it's really true. Because very often those thoughts are there, but there's no base for it. There's only your association from the past, which creates that fiery feeling, and you feel it in your body, in your tummy, or your shoulders, or you get cold, something like that. All kinds of physical reactions to that. And what happened then is once you try that a few times, you suddenly find that you can do that. And then you get a little bit better in it, a little bit better. It took me 2 years. It took me 2 years to control this. You never control it, but you can watch it and you can say. And the funny thing is, our brain learns that. Our brain works that way. As soon as you learn to repeat that, your brain learns it, and at some stage you'll be without non-helping thoughts. And yes, I still have non-helping thoughts once in a while, of course. And then say, okay, is it going to help me? No, it isn't. Okay, let's discard it. And we can discard that because we know when to act. We know when to act because we have been here for 2.5 million years as a species. And this species is by far not the strongest animal on this planet. And we're still dominating this planet. Not always in the best way, but we're dominating it.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we
I'm
must
thinking
be
about
very good at it. Yeah.
you know, let's say you are in an argument with someone in your family or someone close to you,
Yeah.
and they say something, either they say you are something like a name or
Mm-hmm.
behavior. So they're saying, you do this, da, da, da. And you don't see yourself that way. And so it just like stabs you in the heart because first of all, your feelings are hurt because you love this person. You feel like they're criticizing you
Mm-hmm.
and you don't see yourself that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me that either way, you're still going to feel that first stab of emotion.
Yes.
But then once you feel that stab of emotion, where do you go from there? How do you take it from not taking it personally, not hurting, not feeling hurt? How do you transmute that or change that?
Yeah. It's an important point you bring there. Thank you for that. Um, it is important because we tend to respond like like revolver shooters, and we draw our gun, we shoot back. And yes, that's our reaction most of the time. But we must understand that we create our experience ourselves all the time. So what I experience is entirely different from your experience. Okay. You are a woman, I'm a man, so our experience are different per definition. But if we were the same gender, it doesn't matter really. But we would experience that. Even then, we would experience that differently because our experience is always created from our memory.
Mhm.
That's the only way we can, because it's the only source our brain has. So what happens is that anything that someone fires at you comes from him or his or her memory, and not from yours. You didn't have anything to do with that. It's his or her, well, association with that. So once you understand that, you can see, okay, this person is now very distraught by the situation, and I can realize and it hurt what he said to me or what she said to me, and yes, and now I can get very angry. But what will happen is that the situation will only deteriorate. It will only deteriorate, and that's not helpful for both of us. So why would I do that? Doesn't make sense. This is the following of the non-helping thought again.
Mhm.
And then I said, okay, I can ignore that now and just don't pay any attention. What's going to happen? And maybe that person is going to shout harder, but it will only show his incapability of touching me or hurting me or forcing a reaction. And as long as I teach myself, let's not respond to this. Or you can even say, oh, this is not very nice of you. But I can realize, I can understand where you come from, and shall we have a talk about this? I can see that you're hurt because you're trying to hurt me.
Mhm.
Let's have a chat. And I had funny this week. I had a funny experience. My daughter is getting divorced, and that's quite complex because her husband is a German, and well, they got in some sort of argument. So she asked me, "So will you have a talk with let's call him Peter. He didn't call that letter, but let's call him Peter. We have a call with Peter. Okay, I'll give him a call." So I had a call with him, and of course he was upset too. So he started firing all kinds of stuff at me. But the great thing is, as soon as you see, okay, I can really realize you are hurt now, and you're doing this because you are hurting. You're not doing this to hurt me. No, you are hurting, and you want to get rid of that because you don't want to be hurt. So if I can just not take that as serious as I maybe should, which is not helping really. The fun thing is that it dies down because he said his thing. He's loosened his stress, his aggression, whatever he has, and then suddenly the conversation can start. Then you can talk about things. Then you can talk about how are we going to solve this? Can we meet each other in the midst somewhere? Can we make a deal? Whatever.
Mhm.
And that's how we did. And the funny thing is, there was, I think, 5 minutes before my next meeting, so I had the 5 minutes to switch from having a heavy discussion into a meeting again. So it was, and then I said to myself, "That's amazing. I can come out of this discussion, which was demanding, and now I can go into an entirely different situation. I can just switch over,
Mhm.
just like that." And I wonderful conversation with an American guy, by the way.
And I was thinking too, I'm in a relationship with somebody that when he gets upset, he says all the things he wants to say, and then after he's done, he kind of like leaves. Like like
Yeah,
he just like spits it all out and then he's gone. And I know after experience to just wait. I don't call him, I don't do anything. I just wait. And when he's ready, he he calls me back. So in those situations, to me, it's a little bit unfair because all these things are spewed. And then, just like you said, I try not to take them personally, but there's no place to continue the conversation until everything's calm. So,
absolutely. Yeah,
you there are people that they get angry and they're very fiery at first. And then there's other people that they're, just the opposite. they get angry, but they don't say anything and they just go around, having a bad face at each other.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of not being able to let that go at that moment. If you can just let it go, it won't eat you up so much.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, as soon as you, I've the last year I had 3 young men come to me who had an anger problem. They got very angry at situations, and they sometimes even hit people around them. And so they got into all kinds of difficult situations. So what I said is, okay, when you are getting angry and you are not exploding into angriness, no, you are feeling it building up because somebody says something to do, or something happens which you are distraught about. Something is the cause, and that's okay. Doesn't matter, but it's building up. You can feel it build up. It's never like you explode from nothing. That's not how it works with the humans. So if that happens, you can see it coming. And the only thing is, what you do is just to check with yourself. Am I really being in danger right now? Do I need to use my aggression, my physics to attack this person? Do I need that? Is there really a reason to do that? And most of the time, the answer is no, because you're still shouting at each other and shouting at each other. Yeah, but it's loud, but it doesn't hurt really, as long as you don't say the most terrible word. And then it still can hurt, of course. But it's just words, and you can check yourself and say, okay, now I'm going into a non-helping situation. And I'm going to be very, very distraught. I'm going to be very tired afterwards. It's going to cost me a lot of energy and a lot of bad situation. And afterwards, I would think, oh my God, here I went again. And you don't want that. So when you get angry, check yourself. I'm getting angry. Okay, get out of the situation. Walk out, for instance. That's how what your relationship does. He walks out. Maybe it's just as good because then he can't do anything physical.
Mm.
But I don't know. I don't know him, so I have no idea. But it is important that you get some control over yourself. And it's not really control, it's just accepting that you are distraught. And it's okay. Life is sometimes really distressing.
Mhm.
Yes, we all have things that happen to us. But most of the time, people who are getting angry are scared below that. There is something which is scaring them. And that's most of the time, it's something they are projecting into the future. Oh my God, if this happens now, then next week, then that will happen. I don't want that to happen, so I want to stop it now.
Mhm.
So I'm going to intervene now, and I'm going to stop it right now. And that's what often happens when people get angry. But it's also when people get scared, people with
Mhm.
anxiety. I had this lady who had been suffering from anxiety attacks for 23 years. Can you imagine? 23 years. And I had a chat with her, and of an hour we spoke, and I explained to her how this works for her. And they said, okay, I want you as my coach. I want you to help me to get this in control. And okay, and so we had 5 conversations after that. And after the 5 conversations, I asked her, okay, how are you doing now? How's your life looking now? He said, Swier, I've never had any panic attack after our first conversation, even before we started this trajectory. This trajectory has solidified my understanding of how this works and how I created myself, but I have never had a panic attack anymore after 23 years, overnight. How did you do that? I said, I didn't do it. You did it.
Mhm.
You made you took the decision. I'm building this anxiety myself. So I can also not build it. And that's exactly what you did. And the great thing is, we have this healing capacity in ourselves as long as we just let it in. And that's the strength of what Sid Banks has said. We are all sitting in the midst of mental health. We just don't know it, which is one of his famous quotes.
And you said something really important, making a decision. So many things in life begin with a decision or a belief about ourselves. I recently was working with someone that, a year ago, everything fell apart.
Mm,
He broke his leg. He all of a sudden was diagnosed with diabetes and high blood pressure. And, I said to him, did something traumatic happen? Well, it did. He had lost his job of
mm.
17 years. You know, so he made a decision after that. He made a decision that caused things to continue to tumble down the hill instead of
The
going
other
in
way
a
around.
different
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, we make decisions all the time. We just don't call it decision. Because when I pick up my coffee cup, that's a decision. I decided to pick up my coffee cup. It's not important. It's not a big decision, but it is a decision. It's a choice you make
Mhm,
to pick up the coffee cup. Now it's empty, but
mhm,
um, and the funny thing is, everything starts with the first step, and that can be so small. When I was 29, I stopped smoking overnight. And I'm not a very strong not non-smoker, so I've had tried several times before, never successful. Then one time I decided I'm going to stop smoking. I just decided, and I chose not to smoke anymore. So I put all my stuff away, and said, okay. And it took my wife 3 days before she discovered you stopped smoking, which was funny. But I've never had a problem with stopping to smoke because I had said, okay, now I'm going to stop this because I saw her uncle lying in his hospital where 1/3 of his lungs had to be dissected because of the lungs were expanded by his cough. I said, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. And the only way to do that is just stop doing what the
mhm,
causing it. And it's so amazing that things we think about we make them so important, and we create that image. I'm a smoker, so I have to smoke. You don't have to, as long as you don't want to. And it's your life. You decide. That's the beauty of this. We get this body when we come to Earth, and we get all the possibility to choose what we want to do with that. And you can, well, you can cherish it, or you can just have a ball, whatever you like. Your choice. Nobody's going to condemn you on that.
exactly. So talk about the three principles.
Yeah. Good question. The three principles was a sort of a short way of looking at things. The three principles are called, within the three principles community, they're called mind, consciousness, and thought. It's tricky with sorry. Um, Mind is a general description of the intelligence behind life. And there is no way you can ignore that there is an intelligence behind life. And you can also call it God. It doesn't matter if it's God or it's mind or it's the universe, or there are, well, stacks of names for that. There is something which is making sure that we have this beautiful body who's working like this. It's amazing how complex that is, how intelligent that is connected. That's an intelligence which is beyond us. If you just look at a flower or an animal which is moving around, and people are beautiful too. Look at the beauty of a human body. It's amazing, and that's also life. If you're not alive, you cannot experience anything. So it's a quite complex concept, but let's call it the intelligence behind life. That's the most easy way to look at it. And we need that to be able to experience anything. Otherwise, there's nothing to experience. Then the second principle is called consciousness. Consciousness is our being aware of things, but it's a two-edged sword, really. It is on the one hand, it connects us, our senses into an experience, because we can see, we can hear, we can feel, we can smell, we can touch, etc. All those 5 senses and some more, if you like. We can experience things through those senses. And those senses are then fed into our body. They are processed and then brought back into a consciousness we experience. Because what we see, for instance, is coming in through our eyes, is then projected on our retina at the back of our eyeballs. The retina makes an analog signal of that. The analog signal is then sent to your visual cortex at the back of your head. The visual cortex then tries to find that little potential difference somewhere in your memory. Because we don't have any other source in our brain. We cannot look in the future. We can look in the past, yes, well, in our memory, not in the past. We can look in the memory. What's there? So that's how we build up images from people around us. That's how we build. But the funny thing is, our mind plays tricks with what we experience. As soon as you create an image of someone in your head, it is manipulated by your earlier associations with that person or without that person, or with that type of person, or with what you've experienced in the past, and so on and so on. And it's also sometimes quite handy. For instance, if you took a picture of someone where there's a very strong light source behind them, and if you have an older phone, sorry, you take a picture of that, you see a black disc in the place where the face is, but you knew who you were photographing. How is that possible? The picture shows a black disc, and you knew that was Dr. Kimberley I was photographing. How can it be? Well, the problem is our brain creates that image, but it can also manipulate that image in such a way that I can still recognize you, and in spite of all the light which is coming around that. And that's what it's doing all the time, constantly. So our experiences are manipulated by what is in our memory. So we never see something in the same way as any other person, because they have a different memory. There is no way that the memory of the person next to you or against you is the same as yours. That's impossible. So what happens is that your image or your experience or your feeling, what you're feeling, is different from someone else. So we could be watching the same movie. You would be elated, wow, it's a wonderful movie. I would, oh my God, this is a one. Something like that. And it's just a nonsense example I'm using now, but it's what happens because of the difference between those experiences, and that's where the expression separate realities comes from. Mm. And that's what often goes wrong in relationships, because we experience things in a different way, and then we suddenly realize, oh my God, I'm not seeing this. This is a boring movie. I want to go and have a beer or something like that. Mm-hmm. But the fun thing is, once you start to realize that we live in different experiences, you can relate to that and you can incorporate that in your experience, what you are experiencing with the other person. And then suddenly you can be much more friendly to the other person. more at ease because you know, okay, this person is experiencing this in a different way.
Mhm.
And then there's the third principle, which we call thought. Thought is a powerful thing. But I've come to the conclusion we have two types of thought. We have, as I call it, brain-directed thinking, which is most of the time connected to what we feel in our body, how we experience things, how we react to things. And there is this insightful thinking, which gives you the answers you needed at that certain moment. You were looking for a solution for a certain issue, and you suddenly came, and you don't know where it came from. You do not know where it came from. And what you did just then is just have a short connection with that universe, that maybe divine thinking, which comes in and gives you the answer. And that's what I'm now experiencing throughout the day, which is amazing because what I see now is I just respond in the moment and I get an answer. And it's not always the very best answer, but it's always an answer which with what I can work,
Mhm.
which I can work with. Yeah, sorry, I'm mixing things up. English is not my first tongue.
Mm.
um, and thinking is very powerful because it helps us navigate through the world. So these three elements create our experience all the time, every time in different combinations. So we can always deduct what you are experiencing from those three parts. Oh, this is coming from my memory, which is triggered by my experience right now. And okay, maybe I shouldn't be paying attention to this guy who is annoying to me. And in the past, there was this, when I was a child, there was this guy who was annoying to me too, and I had hit him in the face or something like that, which I shouldn't be doing because it will get me into trouble and so on. And sometimes you have to get someone in the face. Sometimes you do. I'm not saying you have to be sweet to everyone all the time because sometimes people get over a certain boundary and then you have to act. But take it away as long as possible. If you can avoid the situation, most of the time it's much better than going to indirect confrontation.
Exactly. So getting to that point where, mm, like you said, look, we don't, we're kind of that white light point, that point where things are quiet and we can choose our thoughts. What are steps to getting to that place?
A very important part is being able to discard non-helping thoughts. When you are more or less mastering the art of discarding those non-helping thoughts, you'll see that you get an additional 30 to 50% of thinking capacity and time, which will immediately be used by helping thoughts. And they are constructive. They are helping. They are really helping you forward. And it gives you more time to think about them because you're not bothered anymore by the non-helping thoughts. And I did a lot of meditation in the past. I've done 8 years of deep meditation. Every morning I got up at 6:30 and then took an hour of meditation. And when I was 2 years into this understanding, I suddenly realized I don't need this anymore. I don't need to go into this meditation anymore. I can meditate throughout the day. When I take the dog for a walk, for instance, I can enjoy the scenery, which is already meditating. And I'm meditating throughout the day. I had a busy day today, and still I found 1 or 2 hours just to work with, well, at ease with things and be productive at the same time, which is quite easy. And the fun thing is, I don't feel much stress anymore. I had last Tuesday, I was invited to talk in a panel discussion for a company I work with. And they said, "Oh, that's impressive. You're going to talk in this panel." No, it was fun. It was fun to be there. It was fun to share with what my view on the situation was.
Mhm.
And and once you are relaxed, those things come by themselves. They just roll out of your mouth more or less. And that's so much more, well, easy, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is fun when you're just there. And sometimes you have no expectations. They ask
No,
the question, and you yourself do not even know what you're going to say until you say it, which is so
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I never prepare for conversations like this. It will
Mm,
come out my mouth anyway. And yeah, that's I don't have to worry about that.
mhm.
And that's great because I find it also very rewarding to bring this forward in the world because it will reduce the suffering in the world. And that's my main goal in when I can help people reduce their suffering. That's what it's all about. And that's what Sid Banks also said. If only people weren't afraid of their own thinking, that alone would change the world.
So if people wanted to connect with you, contact you, at this point, what, you know, what services, what things do you have available for people and how do they get in connection with you?
Yeah. Well, you can easily find me with my name, Swier Miedema. I've got a website under construction right now, but it's there. SwierMiedema.com. I'm also in LinkedIn. You can reach me through LinkedIn, and I have an email address is swier@swiermiedema.com. So that's easy enough as well. I hope. Maybe it's a bit tricky with the letter combination, but still. Um, and I often post stuff on LinkedIn, so you can find me there too.
Right. Well, now I have a personal question for you.
Okay.
What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Um, the most beautiful thing I can see is when people are relieved. I'm, for instance, I'm working with a young lady now. She's 17 years old. Her father is a narcissist, and he's giving her a terrible time. But I've spoken with her twice now, and I'm showing her that it isn't her. It's not her fault. It's sadly enough, it's her father who's creating this. And I could see her drop off a coat. And then I love to see her being strong and powerful as she is. Because I've had discussions with her, conversation with a 17-year-old. I said, my God, it's like I'm talking with a lady of 35 or something like that. She's got a wisdom in her. It's amazing. And that's what I love about these youngsters nowadays. People are 15, 17, 20, 25. They have a wisdom much more than I did at that age. And that's beautiful. Then I can see, okay, humanity is evolving. We are getting in the right direction. Now we need to be able to point it into the right direction. And if we only learn not to be afraid of our own thinking, we
Yeah.
can enjoy life much more.
Well, thank you so much for all your wisdom and I know it will be life-changing for people when they hear this. And I do have one more question for you before we complete.
Okay.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Enjoy it. Make the best of it. Um, and life is beautiful. And the only thing is we think it is not good, beautiful. And yes, and there are always parts which are not beautiful, of course. We all go through hardships.
Mhm.
And I've been in hardships as well. I know how it is. But you can overcome that. You can always start again.
Love that. Thank you so much, Swear.
You're most welcome at the company.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd love to.